Good day.
Good day.
You are in the healing space. My name is Anthony van der Riede, as always, and next to me I have...
Abdurrahman Adams, co-host. Great to be here.
Yes, and we have a guest in studio, Elton David, the director from All My Sports. How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
Awesome to have you. Elton, for those who don't know you, very few, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is All My Sports about?
Let me take a step back and tell you a little bit about me before we get to All My Sports.
Awesome.
All My Sports comes way back down the journey.
Nice.
So I grew up in Belgravia, went to a school called Athlone North Primary,
Heyo.
opposite Athlone Stadium in Q-Town.
Yes.
I used to be a fat little boy.
Heyo.
And then
Cute.
one day,
Hold up.
you know that,
Jay,
yeah,
Tabby.
Because no,
Yeah,
no
you
fat.
know.
I said the wrong Twitter. I'm not supposed to use that.
No fat shady.
remember in those days they used to have that sack race, the potato race.
Yes.
I was the champion in there.
Oh,
Because I couldn't do the
okay.
other stuff, you see. And then came assembly and I realized, but there's a couple of people standing there getting awards. And I looked across and I saw Athlone Stadium and I said, one day I want to run there.
Wow.
And then, because we live close to Sunnyside Primary, the field in that December holidays, at age 10, I decided to run every single day
Sure.
for an hour.
Wow.
So hy's jou spore geraak lê.
Yep. So I came back the next year, January, and I made a clean sweep. Inter-house, inter-schools, and was Western Province, Athlone District, Western Province straight away.
Prior to that, you had no inclination for
Nah.
athleticism.
Just because people made fun and because I wanted to do something different.
So would you go so far as to say it was to escape bullying?
Bullying on one hand, yes, definitely. And more being made fun of. Because people used to call me Taba and shake your cheeks. Oh, Taba, hoe gaan dit met jou? Dis I'm fit vandag, hoor. Jy het genoeg kos gehad vandag, you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So bullying there, way back then, I'm talking 1980.
Sure.
Ja.
Michael Jackson.
100 jaar terug, Mr.
Ja,
Van der
nee,
Riede.
kyk.
Né?
Hy het hulle nie, hy het die teksboek geskryf hier.
Ja.
Die teksboek hier.
You know, so way back then, bullying was a real thing.
Sure.
Just as it is now in schools.
Ja.
Fair.
You know?
So it affects your self-esteem, and the thing that stands out now is you turn to running, not knowing that it will boost your self-esteem. And then just that for you, the validation from being good at something and showing, yeah, look what Taba can do now. So now you're quiet, you know?
And that sprungboard me into a different perspective in people's minds. Because now you're not just somebody to make fun of, now this is somebody else.
Yes.
Now you have a different connotation to who you are, a different
Understood.
image, a
And
different
threatened
perspective.
some people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because now you were just a nobody
Yes.
and people used you as a target.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now you, the other side. Now the challenge becomes is when you're on that side, do you become
Yes.
the victor?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're
yeah.
able.
How did you navigate that space?
It didn't change who I was.
Awesome.
It didn't. It still hasn't changed who I was. We embrace people for who they are, for what they are, for what they have,
Sure.
not for what they can be.
Does it stem from a space of, I know what it's like to be on the other end, empathy?
Yeah.
Absolutely, but also if I think of it from a different perspective, being in a Sunday school, you get taught the basics and the values of life. You know that everybody's equal and you're there to serve people, and that's my motto
And
throughout
it
life.
stays with you,
100%.
basically. So,
My email address signature says learn, earn, and return.
sure.
So I want to learn stuff, I want to earn the right and return it back
Awesome.
to pay it forward. So that's been my mantra all throughout life.
And wanting to return that part of the process, do you feel that you have the relevant support? What is the support that one needs, you know, when you are in that space? I mean, you've got your own company, but it is still an independent space.
Yeah.
You are an expert, you've grown with your industry, etc., you know.
Look, mental health is still almost a taboo subject. And that's the challenge. People don't value mental health in the way that it should be. I mean, in COVID, I came out of depression. And I had counseling every day almost. I sat and I literally looked at a wall with not wanting to move, not wanting to eat, not wanting to do anything. I didn't have a job, I didn't have anything. And coming out of that has made me realize that we need to be talking about this more and more. It's something that people don't talk about. And it's something that males particularly don't even have a conversation about. Or even the emotional aspect of life.
Sure. So what I pick up from that then is this idea. I take my wife to yoga. She starts at 6:45 on a Saturday morning, and like I said, that area around the bush, around the common, is a highway, have the park around, but people are running, jumping, doing the most. It's going crazy out there, and they just out exercising. So Saturday passed, it was raining, and the people were still out there doing the most. And she's running, she's now doing the UTC thingy, so she needs to play. I said, hey, are you gonna run? She said, but in the rain. I'm like, what's that about? And she said, maybe. I said, and now she's like, the point is that not having access to, which is your situation with COVID. Now I can't run, jump. I don't have access to my coping mechanisms. I did watch you online, though. You were doing exercise from home, trying to do and be the most. So it might be the socializing or the exercise that hit you, but I can imagine the stress of not being to physically move, which you're saying that's my method.
Looking in COVID, I did do a 10 o'clock and a 5 o'clock exercise routine on Facebook, which you're referring to. But post that, when life returned to normal, I didn't have a job. Sport was dead. So yes, it was great during COVID. It was my coping mechanism. Come post-COVID, now you need to build a whole business again.
I hear you.
My business started as an app, then it moved to various components. Now it's morphed into something completely different to where I even started my business.
Sure.
And as a business person, you've got to evolve. You can't stay and do the same thing over and over. Unless you're a garage where you're giving people petrol all the time.
Sure.
You can't change your business model.
Understood.
But in a fluid society, we have to learn to change.
So I hear you.
No, I wanted to know, but I think you want to continue on that. I wanted to know more about the services that the business offers.
Okay. Now, I was more going to pick up on the resilience, which is what you're talking about, especially within as far as mental health is concerned. We go through challenges, life happens, and it's the bounce back. So that is the resilience. And resilience teaches you to look at your coping mechanisms, to dig deep and find strength, inner strength. And you can only pour from a full cup. So if you're not looking after your mental health, and you're looking to go and dig deep, you're not going to find much if you didn't put much in the first place. So just from that perspective, then what did you find and how did you deal with that situation from coming out of COVID?
The biggest lesson I learned was I can't erase the errors I've made. Because if I want to go back and erase and change things, it's going to change who I am today.
Sure.
And I think that was a big learning. Secondly, having to spend time understanding who I am. What makes me happy?
Okay.
How do I make me feel special and not depend on other people? Because happiness is an internal thing.
Correct.
It's not a response to other people.
Okay, so we speak in validation, internal versus external, and also value systems. What is of value to me? What do I value?
Correct. And it's not material things. I look at things at material versus non-material. How do I impact people's lives? To make a difference, rather than driving a flashy car. I may not have millions in my bank account.
To make a difference, sometimes you do need a little bit of money.
You need resources. There's a difference. Resources could be anything. It could be people. It could be material. It doesn't have to be physical cash. And I think that's where we make the mistake. Yes, we need cash to survive. We need cash to do things. But you don't always need cash. The three of us can put together a great program and we can run it as three individuals. We've got the resources here. We may need the additional resources to get us from point A to point B.
Absolutely.
But the bulk of it sits in the space. And I think people need to understand the difference. It's great to say, we need money. We need R1 million for a project. Yeah, but why? Because you have all these frills. If I look at in 1999, there was a research proposal done by Dr. Cora Burnett, who said that the bulk of money spent in the government department for sport is spent on administration, not on programs.
Which was a narrative that we hear often in this space.
100%.
Because we were just speaking about breaking, or what was formerly breakdancing, into coming into the Olympics. And that obviously knew from a South African perspective, because we don't know them. But what it does is you need to look at the dancer as a athlete who needs a team to support him, which is
100%.
now your dietitian, your
Yes.
all of the gear, and that comes at a cost because those people need to be paid.
Absolutely.
But now if you look at admin and what filters down to the actual athlete, and then you wonder why certain athletes take the gold and others don't, then we say look at the support. So as much as what you do say, listen, there are resources, there is an element of
Funding. 100%.
yes.
If you look at the Gold Coast Olympics 2012, I think it was, in Australia, né? For them to get a gold medal in their 4-year cycle, they worked it out to be $1 million US dollars cost for one athlete. For one gold medal. That's the cost factor just in a 4-year cycle.
So you have to invest money.
You have to.
You have to.
And if you look at South Africa, our biggest challenge is that sport is self-funded. So the only time sport is paid for by a national government is the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, and All Africa Games. For me to qualify for the Olympics, I've got to earn my own. I've got to find the money. I've got to travel to World Champs. I've got to do everything myself on my own bat. And only once I've qualified, now they come and say, no, this is our athlete. And that's our biggest challenge from a sporting perspective.
So, but how do we change that?
How long is a piece of string?
How long has it been? It's been 30 years.
It's not been 30 years.
You
It's
know?
been the entire South African existence.
Well, then it has to change.
You see, South African government does not value sport in the true sense.
Like, in
So-
the true sense, they don't value drama or the dramatic
Correct.
arts. But they've got to get with the program.
But you see,
Because the world, there's an economy there, that can inform even our economic space.
if you look at the
Our
South African
currency.
budget
Yeah.
when it gets presented, our budget from a sport and arts culture is 9 out of 13 budgets. That's how low down it
And
is.
don't you think the two should be separated? I think it should be separated.
Look, they tried that it was separated
It was.
10 years ago.
I know.
And then it's now amalgamated to try and decrease the ministries to save costs, but they're not saving costs.
But you then just told me that we actually need money to make people turn them into winners
Absolutely.
at an Olympic level or championship level. So then obviously we need to invest that money, and hence your statement absolutely is true that they don't care enough about sport.
Because the perception and the reality is there are other priorities in South
I
Africa.
understand that.
Health, transport,
Yeah.
food, accommodation. I mean, I drove down, where was I this morning? Down the N2. No, down Vanguard Drive. Langa, shacks, opposite Bonteheuwel. Every second shack had a dish on.
Yes.
But they can afford a dish. There is no proper housing. And the government is now looking at doing housing as opposed to funding sport. It's a real priority. That's the challenge of, we're a third world country, but we think we're a first world country from a sporting perspective because we got the Springboks. We've got, so Springboks, Proteas in the cricket, and some tennis players. Those are the only real sports people that are making their names paid for.
And even for some of them, it's been a challenge. To
Absolutely.
get there,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And unless you go to a previously white school like Grey's or Wynberg Boys, you automatically are seen in a better light to get into a Western Province team and then obviously into a Springbok team.
Which is something I think Gaten McKenzie questioned the other day, that at provincial or regional level, this idea of the previously advantaged schools still getting the bulk of the teams are still from that space, you know what I mean? And not enough is being done for the disadvantaged in terms of...
Again, it's resources.
Yeah.
Those parents pay to have a full-time coach.
Yeah.
A school like Bagravia doesn't pay to have a full-time
Basically,
coach.
is maar net ons system wat gefocus.
We need the cash. We need to pay. Hence, we're coming back to basics. I'm wanting to launch a community-based sports program.
Awesome.
So that people can, so the kids, A, can have something to do in the holidays or after school. B, one of my theories is that road accident deaths and accidents are as a result of no sport at schools.
Very, very interesting.
And my theory is that because the kids, since 2010 when sport was removed, you look at the road accident deaths have climbed because kids can't learn perception, they don't know perceptual depth, they can't catch a ball, they don't know speed differentiation. So that guy's going at a hell of a speed and the next car's coming but can't understand it because he's not being taught to catch a ball and see the flight, being able to judge peripheral vision. And for me, that's why I'm wanting to launch a community-based project.
And also the fact that through these projects you actually capture the talent, those that...
Correct.
You know what I mean?
So part one is the activity, part two is to come to a cricket club and say, come to the field this Saturday. Come see what you're doing with these kids. Here's a couple of kids that got talent. You come scout them. And we create that pipeline. Because sport happens in a mass participation, then you go to elite, talent identification, and then elite participation. That's the triangle.
Yes.
Right now the triangle is reversed. Now we've got a bulk of elite participation. No mass. So the guys that are there are the ones that's there. And that's why you look at them, they're there for 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody coming through the pipeline.
Yeah.
And I want to try and bring back the original system.
So other than coming from a therapist perspective, me and my trauma approach, we're speaking about getting or filtering through top athletes. Not everybody's going to be a top athlete, but we want to give them the option or the privilege of trying out at least. I think that other than looking at it as a money spinner, it also has benefits for trauma. And basically from a therapeutic element, we know Cape Flats going through the most. That why move? Because I understand that PT is no longer a subject at school.
It's part of the life orientation program.
Visit.
It's no longer as a standalone subject.
Okay.
It's part of the life orientation program, which is 1 hour a week.
Okay.
If the teacher gives it to you.
So just my observation from working in the schools, I don't see that happening a lot. Again, as you were saying earlier, the value of sport is not really that emphasized. And then given our nation and where we come out of, there's this idea that, look, we all been through trauma, and what is government doing to provide spaces for healing? And so from that perspective, I would say then, where are you spending and how are you spending? That it's not a luxury, it's a necessity, because you should be building your civilians, your people. And this is one way, by making these platforms available, it allows for an out. So the crisis that we're seeing presently is a direct correlation to your pulling budget, your devaluing things that build people. And so, by creating platforms for that to exist in spite of the support or lack of support, I think that's very noble and hard work. Because you're having to do so much more. You're not really getting help. So you're doing more than what is actually your focus area.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, if you look at an organization like Discovery, I'll use Discovery as an example. They have a vitality program, right? They encourage you to do recreation. You get points for it, and they give you discounts. We know the system. And the model behind that is, let's get people active so no one goes to hospital, right? Which is what the government should be doing, using that model. Right? That's the one aspect. The other aspect, if you look at GBV, we only have a stage 1 facility generally.
Sure.
So Anthony gets beaten up.
I didn't know that.
Anthony gets Anthony gets beaten up. He goes to the police station. He goes to what's called a care room.
Yes.
They look after him. If someone's on duty, will be able to do that. First challenge, right? From there, they then go to a facility 1, stage 1, where we get you out of the traumatic experience. After 2-3 weeks, we kick you out because there's nowhere else for you to go. The next Anthony must come in. So there's no stage 2, right? So that, for me, that's a significant challenge. The other option is get rid of the victor, the perpetrator, not the victim. Because invariably the victim is a female who's got children. So where does she go? She goes to stage 1. What happens to my children?
Yeah.
I'm not going to report it. What's going to happen to my children?
Yeah.
Or the perpetrator is often the breadwinner. So we sit with that chicken and egg scenario. Do I report that I've been beaten up? No, I can't, because what's going to happen to my children? Where am I going to go? And that's one of the biggest challenges that we also face.
It's also that the person that is manning the care room is a volunteer.
100%.
Yeah, it's not a paid
And
position.
a trained volunteer.
Yeah, no, we have to train in basic,
Counsel.
but it's not a therapist. So you're just getting basic counseling just to debrief you.
Yeah.
And to tell you, moenie worry nie, alles gaat right wees, and also that uitsort, but it's not, it's a lie, because like Elton is saying, there are things like, you know, it's nice to hear this, but it's not practical. I still need to feed these kids, I still need to make sure, if I go back now, that perpetrator is still there, so I'm going to be in a space where I'm going to be beaten again. And what we are speaking about is...
So unless you're going to take in those kids, don't judge the mother or the woman if it is a woman.
Again, we need to remove the perpetrator out of the system,
Correct.
out of that space. Because she's done nothing wrong. Or he's done nothing wrong. Let me just make this point clear, that it's not only women who are the victims.
Yes.
Men are also victims, which we don't talk about, because we only perceive women as the challenge or as a problem being beaten up. But there's sexual abuse, there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's mental abuse, there's even economic abuse that we don't talk about. Males and females.
So yeah, we are speaking trauma and the different ways in which trauma presents itself, specifically Cape Flats, and we are speaking to Oma Sports and looking at sport then as a way of processing or beginning to process some of that trauma. You've given us a kind of snippet out of your life just to get an idea of what sport has done for you and how it's managed to propel you out of mental health challenges, helped you to cope. The giving back is where where I'm wanting to take this conversation. What then makes you so committed, so passionate about giving back?
Because I realize the benefit it's had on my life.
Okay.
I'm able to connect with people across the world. I'm able to engage with people. I'm able to be on time. I'm able to be committed. I'm able to be focused as a sports person. I can't come to a match half an hour after the game has started. You got to prepare. It's life skills that sport teaches us. And we need to then inculcate that into people from a trauma perspective to say, I'm worth something. My team needs me. You know? We are grouped together.
And I'm part of something bigger than
a soccer team has 11 people in a team. If we play 10 people and I stay at home, there's no the team is going to suffer. So the I is not greater than the team.
Sure.
And we need to understand that. And in that same process, we then build a network for my trauma to potentially be carried by someone else. Because I now have someone who's able to share, maybe not the same trauma, but we can connect and they can help me and support me in that process.
So
Which is one of the things I think sport plays a significant role.
So what I'm hearing is the soft skills. Oftentimes people come and they say, I'm dealing with mental health challenges related to being unemployed, so there's economic, and I say, okay, let's look at your CV, look at your skill set, and then we sit with issues, and then I say, but the soft skills are the most important skills. If you're not showing up on time, if you don't have a good attitude,
100%.
then it is an issue. If your low self-esteem is impacting
Don't look
on your
someone
work,
in the eye.
Exactly.
and I think you, sir,
If you don't,
if you don't know how to
then
present
you have
yourself,
to, unfortunately.
then it becomes an issue. So sport does that. And what I'm also taking away from a team sport is it's also providing a support group where you can speak about. And what I'd like to see is that within those sports spaces, mental health get spoken about, like trauma.
Yeah.
Where we're doing practice. It's a practice session today, but let us form a group. Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation. Where you coming from? How you doing today? What's happening at home? Blah 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 blah. Teamwork. So now you're building cohesion. They're coming together. I'm starting to see that I'm not alone in my struggles. That I have a team member who's also going through their struggles. What are we gonna do collectively
100%.
as a team to deal with our trauma. We're saying, don't push it aside. We still got an objective match. We're going to play this as a team, but also being aware of each other's struggles. I see that on the sport field. I mean, on the soccer field, and from the sideline, parents can be terrible when it comes to no, but it's and I'm thinking to myself, do you understand what impact you're having on this child? But just encouraging. So what I do is, because the one closest to me is right wing.
Yeah.
So I got the access to the right wing because I'm on that line. I come from a defensive position, so I look at I'm not taking over the coach's space, but I'm just softly in his ear. And all I'm doing is just encouraging, just positive. Oh, that was well done. Don't worry about it. Come, you can do it again.
Yeah.
Here we go. Watch your space. Blah, blah, blah. And I can see in front of me this person being transformed and confidence. And so definitely so much. And then I want to take that into a space where we're saying coaching. Having people who are trained to coach, even if it's just voluntary, to understand the impact that you are making.
We have Google coaches right now.
But you was the proper coach.
Look, the problem with a coach is, my view of a coach is there to train the whole athlete, not just what happens on the field.
You.
To your point, it's about
the
person that's coming here,
yes,
not the talent.
Yes,
it's the person. How do I develop the person? Because in 6 months' time, if that guy breaks his leg and he's a professional, what's he going to fall back on? And that's the thing that's one of the things in my view that's missing at the pro circuit right now. We're not training all these guys to Victor Matfield, Joost van der Westhuizen, in their first year as a pro Springbok player, was declared bankrupt. Because no one told him to find the balance and management of funding.
Do they deal with mental health in that space, or is it just pro getting you to
just
be
BMT, big match temperament? They don't talk about the converse of if you're sitting on the bench. How do you deal with that? Because now I'm sitting on the bench, am I not good enough? What's going to happen? When am I getting a chance to play? No, you're not in the first 15. Sit there, my friend. Mull over it in your own head. Find your own strategy. And that's why people have music. People have to listen to podcasts to try and help them get out of that space themselves. Because they don't have any other coping mechanisms. They don't have a space to talk about it.
So what we're speaking about, not having a safe space.
Look, there isn't a safe space because the attitude is, I'm a macho guy. I'm in the first team. Nothing's going to happen to me. I can't be soft. You know? So it's that whole socialization of the ego. I am in charge. I'm the boss. Because everybody looks up to me. If I sit on the bench, it's okay. But I'm on the bench in the Springbok team as opposed to in the Western Province team. So automatically I'm elevated. My chest is out, stomach in, ek is right? But I'm not dealing, nobody's dealing with what's happening in the O's head.
Do you think it's stigmatized? I don't want to, so I want to bring this from a specific, so my cousins were part of the fire brigade. And they also need to be debriefed. And then I asked them, so why don't they said nobody goes because nobody wants to know the guy that's got your back is having problems.
Absolutely.
So is it a similar thing then in the sport?
I did a research for the head of psychology at UWC with police. Same principle. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And the research shows that they don't want to tell that they're having a problem because it makes them vulnerable. It makes them look weak. It makes them often get pulled out of active duty and you're now desk-bound because you could snap and become trigger happy. You know, so people hold it in, and in the same vein, externally they've got, now I have this macho police attitude, but it's a woman as an example. Now she comes home and now she's got to take off a uniform, undress everything in terms of a physical and mental space and be a soft mommy. We don't talk about these things. They don't even have a space to debrief within themselves. And the psychologist that goes around is one in for 5 stations.
Understood.
So how are you going to be able to debrief everybody in that 5 stations over such a short period?
Someone's going to get lost.
Absolutely.
They're not going to say, I need to speak to someone.
They don't want to because they seem weak.
Yes.
I'm a police person. I can't be seen weak.
So socialization of mental health is also an issue.
Absolutely.
Where we don't give it its proper space.
I think.
And thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Mr. David. Thank you, sir.
Invigorating. Yeah.
And I thank
you.
myself for being here. Thank you. This has been the
Peace.
Healing
We
Space.
out. The Healing Space.